So the next feature that we'll take a look at is a point feature. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do this in the term of my storm structures. So again, I'm going to create a new category. This category is going to be, I'll just call it utilities. Actually, let's just call it storm. We'll call it storm utilities. And then we're going to right click and I'm going to go new and I'm going to create a new point feature definition. So the name of this one is going to be drop inlet. The code, simply we can use a DI as a drop inlet. The layer we want it to go to will be same thing, ASB-storm structure. We'll give it a color. For storm, let's go ahead and choose cyan as well. Protect it. And then we will as build that. I'll click close. And then the label, that's all fine. We'll leave that the way it is. Include in the surface. I'm going to say no for this one. All right, so I don't want the storm structures to be in the surface. With that said, I do want to create some topo shots. So what I just thinking as I'm going through this under landscape areas, I'm going to go new point feature, and I'm just going to call this ground topo. And this one can be, a lot of guys use GS for ground shot or GE for ground elevation. So I'm just going to use GS. It's typically what I use, ground shot. And I'm going to do the same thing for the layer. I'm going to call this ground, ASB - ground topo. And make sure we, AS, ground topo, leave that white, that's fine. Just going to put that on there. And then under the storm utilities, all right, so going back to there, so the ground shots is just going to be a point. But the storm utility, what I want that to be is I want a symbol. So if we right click on it, you can see that I can say new symbol, and that makes that drop inlet part of this, the symbol part of this drop inlet. So here's the name, and the name in this case is going to be, we're going to call it a DI for a drop inlet. And let's do the same thing here. Let's call it, give a description of drop inlet. And then the symbol that we want to use is not necessarily a cross. We want to import in an actual structure. So I have this file. You can go to symbols, but I also have this utility drawing that I have. So I'm going to go to where my standards are located, and I've got this symbols and blocks, and I'm going to choose an AutoCAD drawing or DXF file. So I've got this drawing called utility structures, and I'm going to click OK to that, and it's going to show all these different structures that I have. So in this case, you can see that I've got a bunch set up for VDOT, which are these VDOT names. So I could come in here and I'm just going to use a simple, let's use this one here. That's fine. Or I could use this VDOT2A. Let's go ahead and use that one. So I can import them all. I'm just going to import this one for now, but I can import them all. Maybe I want the storm manhole, so we'll add that as well. So maybe I add that because it's not just a drop inlet, I have a storm manhole. So I'm going to click OK to this. And my symbol in this case is going to be this VDOT2A. The colors all by layer. I'm not going to do anything with the attributes or the scale or the list attributes. So I'm just going to put in that block and that symbol. So when we bring this into Business Center, it'll drop in that symbol for us. So I could do the same thing, repeat this process for a new point feature, and we would do this for a storm manhole, or yeah, so we'll call it storm manhole. And the code for this one is going to be, we'll call it STMH, storm manhole, and we'll drop that on a new layer. Again, we could just put them all on storm structures if we want. So I could use storm structure, which actually we probably want to change this one. I'm going to say storm structure, drop inlet, because I want to know how many inlets I have versus how many manholes. So ASB-storm structure manhole. Now again, you can, abbreviate those layers, make them simpler, but this is going to help. You're going to see these show up in my report. So again, it's going to call that cyan. I'll click on this, and then we're going to do as-built. All right. So what I would probably do under storm utilities as well is I would probably make a pipe. So the pipe is going to be a linear feature. So I would make it a line feature. So we'll just call it storm pipe. And for the code, same thing, we call it STRM, or let's call it STRP. See, actually ST storm, we'll just call it storm P for pipe. And same thing, ASB-storm pipe. Now on the storm pipe, again, I'm going to make this a color. So we'll do cyan. Any of these objects, okay, close. So any of these objects, you can put attributes on it. So for the storm pipe, what I can do is I can add a new attribute. And that attribute can be text, a numeric, an integer, a date, time, list, file, photo, you name it. I'm going to put in text, and the name is going to be pipe size. And, again, description, do something like size of pipe, and it's optional. And, the default could be whatever, 15, 18 inch, but we'll leave it optional, and we'll leave it blank. Now we could make it where they are required to put it in, but I'll leave it as optional for now. So I could do that with other things too, right? I could do that with trees in the landscape area. I could put in tree symbols, so on and so forth. But for what we're going to do, that's pretty much all we need. We can always add more on the fly. If the field crew doesn't have a code, they can create one, and it will, we'll just have to make it inside our Business Center template. And, we'll talk about that later in the course. But I wanted to get some of these in, and then the next step is, I'll show you how to export this out, and then we'll get into Siteworks, collect some data, and then bring this back into Business Center.